Tonight, Billie Eilish is not here. And somehow, that feels intentional. Because Billie Eilish has never been where people expected her to be. She didn't arrive quietly, but she also didn't arrive loud. She arrived differently. In a world obsessed with being seen, Billie Eilish became famous by choosing how she was seen. That distinction matters. Most people grow into the spotlight. Billie Eilish grew up inside it, and that changes a person. Imagine being watched before you fully understand who you are. Most of us get to make mistakes privately. Billie Eilish made them publicly, and instead of breaking, she adapted. That's the first thing people miss about her. They call her fragile, sensitive, overwhelmed. But fragility doesn't survive pressure like that. Adaptation does. Billie Eilish didn't resist visibility. She negotiated with it. She decided what parts of herself the world could touch and what parts were off limits. Now pause for a second. How many people do you know who set boundaries before they're forced to? That's rare. We usually learn boundaries after burnout. Billie Eilish learned them while the world was still cheering. That takes awareness. And awareness at a young age is often misunderstood as sadness. People confuse depth with darkness. Billie Eilish isn't dark, she's observant. She noticed early that constant exposure comes with a cost, so she dressed differently, spoke carefully, withdrew strategically. Not to disappear, but to survive. Now let's talk about image. Because image usually controls artists. Billie Eilish reversed that relationship. She didn't let the image define her. She used it as armor. Baggy clothes weren't a statement, they were a boundary, and boundaries when you're young and famous are revolutionary. Most industries reward access. Billie Eilish restricted it, and the restriction made people listen more closely. Because when access is limited, attention sharpens. Now think about sound. Her music isn't loud, it's intimate. It whispers in a culture that screams, and whispering forces proximity. You have to lean in. That's a power move. Most artists try to fill arenas. Billie Eilish fills silence, and silence is where emotions hide. She sings about things people usually avoid naming: fear, discomfort, insecurity, not dramatically, casually, like these feelings have always been there, which makes listeners feel seen instead of sold to. That's another pattern. Billie Eilish doesn't sell emotion, she reflects it, and reflection creates trust. Trust is why her audience stays. Not because she's perfect, but because she's honest without being exposed. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Billie Eilish became a symbol before she had a choice. People projected onto her their fears, their rebellion, their confusion. And carrying other people's projections is exhausting, especially when you're still figuring yourself out. So she did something unexpected. She slowed down. In an industry addicted to momentum, slowing down looks like weakness. But it's not. It's control. Billie Eilish didn't disappear because she couldn't handle fame. She stepped back because she understood it. Understanding is more dangerous than enthusiasm. Enthusiasm burns out. Understanding endures. Now consider this. Billie Eilish doesn't chase relevance. She lets relevance catch up to her. She doesn't comment on everything. She doesn't respond instantly. She waits. Waiting again shows up in this series a lot, because waiting is underrated power. It gives you space to choose. Most people react. Billie Eilish responds, and that difference shows maturity far beyond her years. Now think about pressure. Pressure usually demands performance. Smile more, speak clearer, be grateful. Billie Eilish didn't perform gratitude. She expressed complexity. She admitted discomfort without apologizing for it. That honesty made some people uncomfortable, because we prefer our icons to be inspirational. Billie Eilish chose to be real. And reality isn't always uplifting. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's unresolved. But unresolved feelings are where people actually live. That's why her music feels personal, even when it's shared by millions. Now let's talk about age again, because age is usually used to dismiss seriousness. She's young. She'll grow out of it. But Billie Eilish didn't need to grow out of anything. She grew through it. She allowed herself to change without pretending the past didn't exist. And growth without erasure is rare. Most people reinvent by denying who they were. Billie Eilish integrated. She didn't reject earlier versions of herself. She carried them forward. That's emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is more valuable than charisma. Charisma gets attention. Intelligence keeps it. Billie Eilish has both. but she leads with intelligence. Now here's the late night question. What happens when the world watches you before you're ready, and you survive anyway? You learn something early. That visibility is optional. That privacy is power. That you don't owe the world constant access to your inner life. Billie Eilish learned that lesson faster than most, and that's why she feels older than her age. Not tired, aware. And awareness changes how you move through the world. It makes you selective, intentional, protective. Billie Eilish doesn't overshare, she offers glimpses, and glimpses are more powerful than full exposure because they leave room for imagination. And imagination keeps people coming back. So tonight isn't really about Billie Eilish. It's about what happens when someone grows up online and decides not to let the internet own them. It's about choosing boundaries early, about understanding cost before damage, about surviving attention without becoming consumed by it. And that story is still unfolding. Because Billie Eilish isn't finished becoming herself, she's just learned how to protect the process. Now let's talk about control, because control is the part people rarely associate with Billie Eilish. They talk about emotion, sensitivity, mood. But they miss the structure underneath. Billie Eilish isn't drifting, she's steering. And steering requires awareness. Awareness of what attention does. Awareness of how quickly people consume what they don't understand. Most young artists are taught to give more access, more explanations, more availability. Billie Eilish did the opposite. She reduced access, and reduction, when done intentionally, creates clarity. Clarity is powerful, because clarity lets you choose what matters. Now consider how unusual that is. Most people discover boundaries after crossing them, after exhaustion, after resentment, after damage. Billie Eilish learned boundaries while the world was still applauding. That timing matters. It means she didn't wait to be broken before protecting herself. She protected herself while she was still becoming. That's not fragility, that's foresight. And foresight is a quiet form of strength. Now let's talk about honesty. Because honesty is often misunderstood. We think honesty means saying everything. It doesn't. Honesty means not lying to yourself about what you can handle. Billie Eilish has been honest about her limits, and limits, especially in public life, are often treated like weakness. But limits are information. They tell you where to stop before you lose something important. Billie Eilish listened to that information. She didn't romanticize burnout. She didn't glorify suffering. She acknowledged pressure without letting it define her. That balance is rare. Most people either deny pressure or drown in it. Billie Eilish navigated it. Now think about evolution. Growth is usually presented as a clean transformation, before, after. But real growth is messy. It overlaps. It contradicts itself. Billie Eilish allowed contradiction. She didn't erase earlier versions of herself to appear more mature. She integrated them. And integration is a sign of emotional stability. People who integrate don't panic when they change. They don't feel the need to apologize for evolving. Billie Eilish doesn't apologize for becoming someone new. She also doesn't deny who she used to be. That honesty creates trust, not because she explains everything, but because she doesn't pretend. Now let's talk about influence. Influence isn't about volume anymore. It's about resonance. How deeply something lands. Billie Eilish resonates because she doesn't overstate. She lets silence finish sentences, and silence invites interpretation. Interpretation makes people feel involved. They're not just listening, they're participating. That's why her audience doesn't just follow, they stay. Now here's the uncomfortable part. Billie Eilish shows us what happens when you don't perform happiness on demand. She doesn't package pain as inspiration. She presents it as information. And information doesn't tell you how to feel. It lets you decide. That autonomy is rare in entertainment. Most content tries to direct emotion. Billie Eilish reflects it, and reflection feels respectful. Now think about the internet. The internet rewards immediacy, fast reactions, fast opinions, fast explanations. Billie Eilish slowed down. She didn't disappear completely. She recalibrated. Recalibration is different from retreat. Retreat is fear-based. Recalibration is strategic. It means adjusting position without abandoning direction. Billie Eilish recalibrated to protect her relationship with creativity. Because creativity doesn't survive constant demand. It needs space. And space is expensive in a culture that monetizes presence. Billie Eilish paid that price willingly. And in doing so, she preserved something rare, authentic output without self-erasure. Now let's bring this back to you, because this isn't just about fame, it's about attention. Where you place it, how much you give, when you pull it back. Most people exhaust themselves by being available everywhere. Billie Eilish chose selectivity. Selectivity isn't selfish, it's sustainable. And sustainability is what keeps people from burning out before they even understand themselves. Now ask yourself something. What parts of your life are you sharing out of habit rather than intention? What parts could you protect without disappearing? Billie Eilish didn't reject visibility. She redefined it. She showed us that being seen doesn't require being exposed. That connection doesn't require constant access. That growth doesn't require erasing the past. And that lesson lands especially hard at night, when distractions fade, when performance slows down. Late at night, we're more honest about what we can handle. And Billie Eilish's journey feels like a reminder that awareness isn't weakness, it's preparation. That boundaries aren't limitations, they're protection. And that surviving attention without losing yourself isn't luck, it's a skill. One learned early, one practiced deliberately, and one that will matter more than fame ever will. So tonight, this isn't about celebrating Billie Eilish, it's about recognizing what her choices reveal about modern life. That you don't have to give everything to be relevant. That you don't have to rush to be understood. That protecting your inner world might be the smartest move you make. Billie Eilish understood that before most people do, and that understanding is why she isn't fading, she's stabilizing. And stability in a noisy world is power.